I'd like to thank our reader, Pat Faveron, for the wonderful reading. She's always so clear and articulate. And thanks to Karen Mitchell and Karen Drucker and our CSL music team for our beautiful music that supports the message. Today, as we continue on our wonderful 2023 spiritual journey, as well as our series on life, love, and the pursuit of happiness according to the boy, the mole, the fox, and the horse, we explore resilience and overcoming adversity. Resilience is often described as a capacity to bounce back from adversity, and it's a powerful force that resides within each one of us. It's a remarkable quality that transforms ordinary individuals into extraordinary beings, allowing us to not only endure life's trials, but to thrive in the face of them. This is already week 12 of our journey. And like the boy, the mole, the fox, and the horse, the story's not over yet, and we still have a bit more time to discover who we are and what has meaning to us and where our home lies. Each week is independent, and this week you walk away with some tools you might use to delve deeper into understanding your life and how you might become more resilient and overcome adversity. Before I turn this over to Reverend Catherine, here's your question for the week. What is the one choice you might make today to bounce back from challenging situations, to enjoy life while experiencing less stress, and to learn to dance in the rain? One more time. What's the one choice you might make today to bounce back from challenging situations, to enjoy life more while experiencing less stress, and to learn to dance in the rain?
Well, good morning, my friends. Reverend Catherine Bonin here. Just really thrilled and lucky to be able to be with you again this morning as we continue our series on the boy, the mole, the fox, and the horse. So, a little boy was telling his grandma how everything went wrong at school that day. His teacher wasn't very nice to him. He didn't understand the lessons. He fought with one of his friends. The lunch wasn't very good. The whole day just wasn't a good day, he told her. Meantime, Grandma was baking a cake. So she asked the boy if he'd like a snack, which of course he did. Here, she said, have some cooking oil. What? Yuck, said the boy. Well, how about a couple of eggs? Said the grandma. Raw eggs? That's gross, Grandma, said the boy. Would you like some flour then, or maybe some baking soda? Grandma, that's all yucky. To which the grandma said, yes, all of those things seem bad by themselves, but when they're put together in the right way, they make a wonderfully delicious cake. And speaking of cake, let's talk about our book for a moment. As we near the end of our series on the wisdom found here, we can still learn so much from our four friends. Today, we're going to explore how to overcome adversity, how we bounce back from challenging situations, what to do when our world seems to be spinning out of control, how we can enjoy life more and experience less stress, how we can dance in the rain. So I have a question for you. When it's raining outside, what do? Do you stay in? Do you even maybe change your plans so you don't have to be out in it? Or do you welcome the water? Do you go out there and dance? Do you find joy in your experiences no matter what the weather? Now, of course, this is a metaphor for how we handle life's challenges. Sometimes it's not so easy. Sometimes we all want to stay in and watch the rain through the window. But there's one thing that I know for sure. When times are tough, when it's raining really hard, that's the time to stop, take a breath, and look for God. Most of us find it easier to find God and see God when we get out into nature. And like the Nike ad says, sometimes we need to just do it. Just get out there and find God. Feel God. Feel that connection that we have with that spirit within us. That's something greater than we are, that lives within us and expresses itself as our life. Looking for that and finding it, feeling it, puts things into perspective. I like to go to the beach, but you might be someone who likes to work in the garden or go on a hike, sit next to a lake or a river, ride your bike in the park, or maybe take a walk in the woods. Whatever it is that gets you to a place where you find that connection, that's where you want to go. Early in our book, the boy innocently asks the mole if he has a favorite saying, and we get a glimpse into how the mole handles adversity. Kate.
Do you have a favorite saying?
Yes.
What is it?
If at first you don't succeed, have some cake.
I see. Does it work?
Every time.
Says? Well, Kate, that's the mole's version of self-care. So what is it that you do when you've forgotten, when you need to focus on self-care so that you can remember the truth of who you are, so that you can remember that God lives in you? So what is your self-care? What is your cake? Like I said, the beach is my happy place. It's where I feel connected instantly. I put my toes in the water and all of my worries and concerns just disappear. The key for me, though, is to notice as quickly as I can so that I can stop spinning and then just do it, just go. Even if it's for 10 minutes, everything changes for me. See, sometimes we just have to change things up. And as our friend Ernest Holmes says, we need to turn away from the condition. We need to focus on the truth. Still, I can't say this enough. Life is tough, and sometimes this is really hard to do. Sometimes there are bumps in the road and things just don't go the way we want them to or the way we think they should. But as we grow spiritually, the bumps in the road seem smaller. Maybe it's just that we see them differently, but living a spiritual life does make it easier to navigate those challenges. And then we get to experience more joy, more love, more peace, more wholeness, more of the good stuff. And who doesn't want that, right? But just because we want that and we work at it doesn't mean that life's all roses and chocolate. We've all got our trials and tribulations, and none of them are the same. Stuff just happens. It does. That's life. That's the human condition. And over the past couple of years, we've all had a hard road. COVID has taken us down that road. COVID hasn't discriminated. It's impacted every single one of us, and it still is. From working at home and all the adjustments many have had to make to do that, to wearing masks, to getting sick and having to isolate, to watching others battle the virus, some winning, some not. COVID gave each of us an opportunity to look at how we overcome adversity in a very real way. And it gave us the opportunity to practice. So back to our book. Here.
One of our greatest freedoms is how we react to things.
You see, it isn't what happens to us. It's how we react or respond to what happens to us. So think about this a little bit. How did you react to the last challenge that came into your world? I just shared with you about COVID and how we each had that experience. And it was one that was tough for me. But I think it was tough for all of us. Did you make your last challenge the focus of your experience? Did you allow it to take over and take the reins in your consciousness, maybe even slipping into feelings of victimhood? Did you allow yourself to get all caught up in whatever that challenge was and spin for a while? Or were you able to watch it float by like a cloud floats by in the sky without letting it impact your peace of mind? My guess is that you were somewhere in between all of that. But here's something else I know for sure. The more we pay attention and notice that we get sucked in by the stuff that happens out there, the easier it is to change where we're going, to change our focus of attention. And the quicker we can see the truth, the quicker we come back to center, to truth, to peace, to God. Still, like I said, it's not easy. It's something that we have to practice. But with practice, it does get easier and it happens more quickly. In the very first week of our series, Reverend Larrye talked a little bit about Viktor Frankl, who spent time in a concentration camp during World War II. He wrote a well-known, often cited book called Man's Search for Meaning. And in that, he stressed that humans have to find meaning and purpose in their lives in order to be fulfilled. And Reverend Larrye told us that because we're each individual expressions of the divine, we find meaning in our own way, and we each have to discover our own path for ourselves. According to Frankl, every one of us has to choose how we're going to respond to the circumstances out there and the situations that present themselves in our lives. And he says that the meaning of our life is determined by how we choose to respond. That's important, that it's a choice. Never give up, he tells us. And we're going to come back to that in just a few minutes. But first, I want to talk about leaning into trust. Because for me, when we trust God, the choice is an easy one. See, Ernest Holmes says that there's no spot where God is not. And we know that God is all that there is. But even though we know that, life happens and we end up with these things that we call problems. So what do? Well, you've all no doubt heard the statement that God or Spirit won't bring you to something unless it can bring you through it. I find this to be a powerful reminder. And I say it's a reminder because we already know this. The Bible reminds us of this over and over again. I invite you to find the verse that resonates the most with you, because that will be a touch point for you. For me, because I'm a beach person and a water person, I love Isaiah 43:2. It's also really short, so it's easy to remember. It says, "When you go through deep waters and you feel you are in great trouble, know I am with you." Think about that. Think about when you've gone through difficult times in the past. Things have always worked out, haven't they? God's always provided. God's always delivered. So why is it we think today's challenge, or even one that might come up in the future, would be any different? It really helps me to remember that no matter how things look, no matter how bad things have seemed in the past, God's always been there. I'm not doing this alone. That God's got me. And more importantly, that God's got this. And that I need to trust in that positive, productive, good outcome to this seeming very difficult situation. So let's look back at our book. While each character, the boy, the mole, the fox, and the horse, have their own strengths, and they offer some beautiful lessons for us. For me, the message that the horse provides is one of the most powerful. He represents strength and resilience and perseverance. And from the moment we see him, it's clear that he's a force to be reckoned with, both physically and emotionally. They ride and they run hard. And as you see them moving through the countryside, you see them enjoying. But then the boy falls.
Well, oh, God!
You fell. But I've got you.
He's
Sorry.
saying, don't worry, it'll all be okay. And when the boy shares that he's scared, the horse shares some wisdom. Here he says, everyone is a bit scared, but we're less scared together. And then the next couple pages center around how important it is to have each other. When times are difficult, we need each other. And the horse reminds us that we all need a reason to keep going. What's yours, he said. You 3, says the fox. Getting home, says the boy. And cake, says the mole. Well, I'm with the fox. I think it's really important to have community. Like this one, Centers for Spiritual Living, and particularly Centers for Spiritual Living, Southeast Louisiana. This community gives us strength. We all need people, and we all need a place where we can go to feel stronger when we're feeling weak so that we can carry on. The horse's story centers around his journey through life's challenges, which, like ours, includes loss and fear and uncertainty. Despite life's challenges, he reminds us to remain steadfast and determined, that we each need to find our own inner strength and resilience. One of the most powerful moments in the story for me was when he reminds the others, and all of us as well, that even though the road is sometimes tough, we should never give up. He reminds us here that in the face of uncertainty, we should hold on to what we know to be true, and we should move forward with strength and purpose. We should remind ourselves that everything is for us. And while we might not understand the blessing today, over time, it will reveal itself. It's like the clam that gets a grain of sand in its shell. The sand irritates it to no end. But finally, the clam accepts the sand, lives with it, and the sand becomes a beautiful pearl, a beautiful gift. Well, A Course in Miracles tells us that we don't know what anything is for. And it's true. The horse reminds us that even if we don't know why something is happening and the road seems difficult, that we must carry on. Sometimes he says, just getting up and carrying on can be brave and magnificent. One of the things I love about the horse is that his strength is so evident in his ability to be both vulnerable and share his emotions, and also strong and powerful and share such deep wisdom. Throughout the book, the horse reminds us that life is full of challenges, but that we have the power to overcome them if we don't give up or we don't give in. On this page, the boy is feeling vulnerable, and he tells the horse, sometimes
I think you believe in me more than I do.
You'll catch up.
I love that. And then when life is difficult, the horse reminds us that when the dark clouds come, keep going. God doesn't bring us to something unless it can bring us through it.
When the big things feel out of control, focus on what you love right under your nose.
Oh, I like that.
And that's truth, right? The truth of you, the truth of God. Like I suggested before, get out into nature. Give yourself an opportunity to remember. Give yourself an opportunity to feel God's presence, to feel love's presence in your life in the moment. The very wise horse reminds us that no matter how things look, the storm will pass. It always does. And we all know what comes after the storm, right? Just like this picture. There's a sense of calm, a moment where things settle down. And that's what happens when we connect, when we touch that hem of the garment, if you will, and remember God, when we remember the truth about life. Not only is it critical that we remember that the storm will pass and that God's got us, but also that what happened before is gone. That what we have that's real is right now in this present moment. So while many people focus on letting go, what if instead we focused on letting come, letting the good come to us? In the book, Scientific Christian Mental Practice, Emma Curtis Hopkins imparts one of the lessons about overcoming adversity from the teaching of Jesus. She tells us to remind ourselves that God is good and good is God. She says that we should affirm this every day, saying to ourselves, there's good for me and I ought to have it. And that we should expect good and be very definite in our mind that it is coming. She says we should look ahead instead of back. And sometimes that's hard. There might be times when you feel like you're not getting anywhere. The boy shares that sentiment. He sighs and he tells the horse, oh, we have such a long way to go. And once again, the horse imparts some very powerful wisdom. Yes, he says, but look how far we've come. Well, for me, that's an invitation to shift our focus to gratitude, folks, and all that we know about the power of a gratitude practice. When my daughter, who is now 33, was small, I read a book called The Wealthy Spirit by Shelley Campbell. And in this book, she talks about a game that she played with her mother when she was a child, and they called it the Glad Game. Well, I liked that game so much that I brought it into our home. And on days that were particularly tough for either one of us, my boss got to me, or if I lost a sale, or maybe my daughter came home complaining about a bully on the playground, or a skinned knee, or difficult homework, I'd say, let's play the Glad Game. Basically, it's a gratitude list, allowing us to focus on what's right in our world instead of what's wrong. It's an opportunity, like the horse says, to reframe our perspective and to look at how far we've come. I usually start with, I'm glad you're my daughter. And she would say something like, I'm glad I have you as my mom. And I might say, I'm sure glad it's Thursday. The weekend is almost here. And she'd say, I'm glad we get to have ice cream for dessert, Mom. You get the picture. And although the first couple can be hard, once you get on a roll, it's a lot easier to find things to be glad about. The game is a great way to change your attitude in a hurry and bring your attention to the blessing in your life. When I go down to the beach, I sometimes play this game by myself. You see, it cuts the pity party really short. Try it. You'll see. Several weeks ago, I shared another little game with you I play when I'm feeling particularly challenged by life. Also, I often play that one at the beach, but at other times in other places as well. I look around and I pick out a stranger and I remind myself that just like my life ebbs and flows, they too have their challenges, that I have absolutely no idea what they're going through, but that it's just as important to them as my challenges and my path is to me. And sometimes I have to look at 3 or 4 people and go through that exercise until my heart softens towards them, towards whoever it is that might be giving me some challenges, and towards me as well. And then my load seems lighter. See, we travel this road both together and alone. We've all got our unique journey. We each carve out our own road, but we're all headed to the same place. We get to interact with each other and learn from each other and love each other. We get to see God in each other. And we all get there. We all get to the same place, that place of oneness, that place that we call home. Finding our way home is a journey from ego to soul, from separation to oneness, from Jesus to Christ, from Siddhartha to Buddha, from Arjuna to Krishna. Every religious tradition and philosophy teaches us that every time we embark on an adventure, every time we overcome challenges, we come closer to the truth of who we are, and we deepen our relationship with the divine. In Matthew 7:14, the master teacher Jesus said, "The gateway to life is narrow, and the road can be difficult. Only a few will ever find it." Well, I have news for you. If you've chosen to live a conscious, spiritual life, you've found the road. You've decided you want to know God. And that alone, that choice, that decision puts you on the road. Know every time you answer the call of your heart and move into the depths of your soul to find God, you will always be triumphant. Everyone has a different quest. Every one of us lives a life with a unique cast of characters, a specific setting, and a journey that is ours. At the same time, they're all similar. Our journeys require making decisions about how we want to be and how we want to walk in this world. And we need to make those decisions or choices over and over and over again. There was a young woman who complained to her mother how hard life was. There's always something, like the little boy at the beginning of our talk. Well, the mother took the young woman into the kitchen and she put 3 pots on the stove to boil. In the first pot, she put carrots. In the second pot, raw eggs. And in the third, ground coffee beans. After 20 minutes and the water was boiling, she said to her daughter, "Sweetie, what do you see?" "Carrots, eggs, and coffee," said the girl. And the mother explained to her that each one of those things faced the same adversity, boiling water. Each reacted differently, though. The carrot went in strong, hard, and unrelenting, and it came out soft and weak. The egg was fragile. It had a thin outer skin that protected it. But in the boiling water, the insides hardened. The coffee beans, she told her daughter, are unique. They actually change the water. Which are you when adversity knocks on your door? How do you respond? Are you the carrot, seeming strong but filled with pain and adversity? You'll wilt, you'll become soft and lose your strength. Are you the egg that starts with a malleable heart but changes with the heat? Do you start out soft but allow a death, a breakup, a financial hardship make you feel hard and stiff? Does your shell look the same, but are you tough or harder on the inside? Or are you like the coffee bean? Do you change the world around you? When the water gets hot, does your fragrance and your flavor come out? Do you allow the truth of who you are to be expressed? When things are their worst, do you look inside and elevate yourself to another level? Do you become better for it? Are you a carrot, an egg, or a coffee bean? It's a choice, and those choices are important to find peace and freedom and joy in our lives. See, every day, sometimes many times a day, we get to make a choice. The choice as to whether we're going to run from the rain or whether we're going to get out there and dance. Whether we're going to react like a carrot, an egg, or a coffee bean. Overcoming challenges isn't something that most of us inherently know how to do. We have to learn it, and we have to practice a lot, all the time. But the more we make the decision to dance, the more we make the decision to allow that adversity to make us better, the quicker we get it, the more we enjoy this thing called life. So let's all make a commitment to ourselves to stop, to toss our head back, to throw out our arms and pick up our feet and dance. The world will seem a much easier place to be in. And so let's pray. As I think about walking on the beach, I think about that connection that I feel in my heart, that place within me that is the garden of spirit, that place where problems don't exist, where I know that God has got me, where I know that God has got this, because I know that God is truly in every experience, in every situation, in every face I encounter, in every possible experience. God is and I am. That infinite power and presence of love lives through me, and it lives in, as, and through each person here. And what I know is it shows up in so many different ways and provides us with so many opportunities to remember the truth. When we fall into that humanness, God taps on that window pane of our life and says, come on out here and dance. Yes, it's raining, but there's good for you here and you ought to have it. So what I know is for each person here, in those moments that life presents itself of adversity, I know that each person is able to remember more quickly the truth of who they are, that life of spirit lives within them, that everything is for us, that God is in all of it, that good is here, and that we each ought to have it, and that we can each move through life like that coffee bean, becoming better for those challenges. And so it's with a heart filled with joy for this spiritual community, for this teaching, for the principles of the science of mind, and for this sweet little book, The Boy, the Mole, the Fox, and the Horse, and the opportunity that we get to learn and make these principles real by looking at the concepts explained and the pictures and the joy in this book. And so it's with that full, grateful heart that I release my word. I call it good because I know that it is. And so it is. Amen.
Doesn't Reverend Catherine seem to keep outdoing herself? What beautiful stories and quotes. We're so happy she got her voice back and could be with us once again. And since she ended with such a beautiful prayer, let me just take this time to remind you of your affirmation for the week. How is it I so willingly and effortlessly bounce back from challenging situations? Enjoy life more while experiencing less stress, and learn to dance in the rain. And your challenge this week is to do one thing each day that reminds you to play one of those games that Reverend Catherine talked about. And also to notice if you're choosing to be a carrot, an egg, or a coffee bean when challenges arise in your life. I hope you're enjoying this series as much as I am. I almost hate to see it coming to close in a couple weeks. Nonetheless, if you feel like you've been inspired, please consider making a donation to our center. I'm so grateful for those who have diligently continued to support us and for all the contributions, which help us to have special music, special ministers giving talks, and have our special events. Enjoy our offertory song.